Russia's military said to be divided tonight over Ukraine's stunning military offensive, retaking thousands of square miles from Moscow's forces, which are now on the defensive in eastern and southern Ukraine. CNN senior international correspondent Matthew Chance has the latest for us. Matthew, CNN's reporting that Putin himself is giving directions to generals on the battlefield as Russia's military appears increasingly divided on how to proceed with this war. Tell us more of what you're learning.
That's right, Wolf. Tonight, another illustration of just how much intelligence, just how much access the US authorities have, the US intelligence has, on the thinking of what's going on inside the Russian command structure. They're talking about intercepts that they've sort of made available to CNN. We're reporting on that, about how there are disagreements on the battlefield between senior officers in the Russian military about what the tactical response should be in various scenarios. They've been flung into disarray, according to these intercepts, because of the dramatic advances on the field by Ukrainian forces in the north of the country, around the city of Kharkiv. And there are intercepts looking at, recording officers complaining to their loved ones at home and to their fellow colleagues about the strategic decisions that have been made by Moscow. So all of this points to a sort of chaotic sort of mess, if you like, in terms of the command structure. More than that, though, these US intercepts suggest that Vladimir Putin himself, the Russian president, has been speaking directly to and giving orders directly to Russian generals in the field. Now, that's an extraordinary management strategy, if you like, for a modern military like Russia's. And it indicates that these, first of all, it indicates a dysfunctional command structure, but it also indicates that the military plan in Russia, such as it exists, seems to be determined by the politicians, by Vladimir Putin. It indicates that the strategy is a political one, not a military one, and that may account for some of the battlefield losses that the Russian military has suffered over the past 7 months. Wolf.
And Matthew, all this comes, as you well know, as the pressure is clearly mounting on Putin back home.
Yeah, a lot of pressure mounting on him. He's been trying to raise the stakes by announcing referendums in the areas of Ukraine that Russia occupies. But actually, the stakes have been raised at home because he's introduced a mobilization, we call it a partial mobilization of reservists, trying to get 300,000 Russian men who've previously served in the Russian military into the forces. It's really led to protests on the streets, with more than 1,300 people detained so far. There are dramatic scenes at border crossings around Russia as men of military age and their family attempt to escape the country before they can be sort of swept up into the armed forces and sent to the front line. But it really is ratcheting up pressure on Vladimir Putin at home.
Yeah, big time indeed. Matthew Chance, thank you very, very much. Let's go to Ukraine right now, where President Volodymyr Zelensky talked about the Russian mobilization in his nightly address to his nation. CNN senior international correspondent Ben Wiedemann is on the scene for us tonight. Ben, how is Ukraine reacting to news of this Russian mobilization?
Well, first, just as your show began, Wolf, the air raid siren went off here. As far as the reaction, Zelensky actually was making his nightly speech today, and normally it's in Ukrainian. It started in Ukrainian, and then he switched to Russian, addressing the Russian people directly. He said that the announcement of a partial mobilization is a frank admission that the Russian army has failed in Ukraine. He said that Russians who have done nothing to resist the war are accomplices in war crimes and torture in Ukraine. He went on to say, for instance, that it is time to choose. For Russian men, it's to choose whether to die or be crippled or to survive. For Russian women, it's time to either let their sons, their husbands, their grandchildren die or to let them survive. He noted that, according to the Ukrainians, 55,000 Russians have been killed since this war began last February, and that their choice is, they have a choice, either to protest, to fight back, to run away, or if they're in Ukraine, to surrender to Ukrainian forces. Wolf?
Ben Wiedemann reporting for us. Ben, thank you very, very much. Let's get some more on all of these dramatic developments. Joining us right now, CNN's chief international anchor, Christiane Amanpour. Christiane, thanks for joining us. This Russian mobilization, as you well know, may be a desperate move by Putin, but is it a sign he's digging in on this war?
This is what the Europeans and Americans and basic Western alliance people are telling me here at the UN. I spoke to the European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen. She believes, and so do others who I've spoken to, that what's happening now shows a measure of desperation. And what you've just heard from Ben and from Matthew regarding what's going on the ground is testament to that Putin, if he really is calling up generals on the front and directing from the Kremlin bunker, this is not how modern war is waged. In addition, any mobilization is being protested right now, but would take time to actually stand up, including training and getting them ready to go into battle. The EU has said that they will be imposing a new round of sanctions in retaliation for any, quote, sham elections that are going to take place, according to Putin, in the Russian-occupied parts of Ukraine. And that is meant to be starting these sham elections tomorrow. For their part, the Ukrainians are saying now is the time to give us the weaponry we need to make good on the progress that we've already made and to help us keep territory and keep pushing Russia back to the February 23rd borders. So that's essentially what is going on right now.